Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
In an election year marked by historic moments, President Joe Biden provided yet another one this evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. From the Oval Office, he spoke to the American people about his decision to withdraw from the 2024 presidential race. That address ended just moments ago. And KPBS reporter John Carroll has been monitoring the president's remarks, and he joins us now from the newsroom with more. John?
Maya, this was arguably the most important speech Joe Biden has ever given. The setting, one typically used by presidents for only the most important addresses to the nation, the Oval Office. Biden reminded everyone that presidents are not kings. He said that he revered the office of president, but that he loved the country more. The president said that in recent weeks it had become clear to him that he must do whatever it took to unite the country, saying that nothing can get in the way of saving democracy, including personal ambition. And he went on to say what he wanted to do in the remaining months of his presidency.
You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now. Over the next 6 months, I'll be focused on doing my job as president. That means I'll continue to lower costs for hardworking families, grow our economy. I'll keep defending our personal freedoms and our civil rights, from the right to vote to the right to choose. I'll keep calling out hate and extremism. Make it clear there is no place in America for political violence or any violence ever, period. I'm going to keep speaking out to protect our kids from gun violence, our planet from climate crisis that is the existential threat. And I will keep fighting for my cancer moonshot so we can end cancer as we know it, because we can do it.
The president went on to list some of what he says are his accomplishments, including that he moved to keep NATO stronger and to support our allies in the Pacific. He promised to keep working to end the war in Gaza and to bring all the hostages home. And he said he would continue to work to bring home Americans unjustly detained abroad. Toward the end of the speech, the president pivoted to thank and praise Vice President Harris. He relayed a story familiar to many Americans when, after the Constitutional Convention in 1787, when Ben Franklin was asked, "What kind of government do we have, a monarchy or a republic?" he replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." He said that question was now in the hands of the American people, and he called on all of us to help protect democracy. Live in the newsroom, John Carroll, KPBS News.
Thanks for that report, John. The first full day of Comic-Con is tomorrow, but the event is already taking over downtown San Diego. KPBS reporter Alexander Nguyen was there for the official kickoff of the pop culture celebration.
Comic-Con 2024 is now open.
With that, Mayor Gloria and First Dog Diego, dressed as Deadpool, welcomed thousands of visitors to town.
Every Comic-Con attendee is not just a fan, but they're also a hero for our city. They're helping our city to fix potholes and house our homeless folks with every single costume that they wear.
More than 100,000 attendees are expected for the 4-day pop culture event, generating more than $3.2 million in hotel taxes, according to the city. Comic-Con spokesperson David Glanzer says the event has an economic impact of more than $164 million for the region.
So it's a nice impact over a short period of time.
Outside the convention center, crews are still doing some finishing touches for the event. Banners still need to be unfurled, barricades set up. San Diego Police Chief Scott Wall says there will be increased law enforcement presence to keep the event secure.
We've been doing this event for so many years. We just had a full briefing yesterday with everybody that is involved in running this event to make sure that there are no gaps in our safety plan. and everybody's communicating effectively, and we're covering all the bases. So
This would be the first Comic-Con since 2002 to have a full Hollywood presence.
Yeah, definitely just trying to have like a good full experience for Comic-Con. I probably only got maybe some of it last year, so I'm just expecting big things this year.
That's something Diego Solano is excited about. The El Cajon resident went to Comic-Con for the first time last year during the actors and writers strikes. He says he's happy to be back. He's also looking forward to getting a glimpse of what's to come at preview night this evening. Behind me, people are lining up to pick up their badges, and inside, crews are still setting up for tonight preview night, which starts at 6 p.m. In downtown, Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
And while much of the focus is on the return of Hollywood studios and stars, we're also highlighting San Diego creators. That story is coming up in just a few minutes.
Now we continue to see quite a bit of heat over the interior. This is going to linger into Thursday and even Friday to some degree. In the meantime, out to the east, moisture means the potential that at least a few of us could have a downpour or even a thunderstorm. Could we see changes, though, with regards to wet weather and temperatures this weekend or even early next week? All the details coming up in your forecast in just a bit. Stick around.
Some residents in Southcrest are still recovering from the January flood on top of dealing with the extreme heat. Some, like Greg Montoya, are even living in their unfinished homes with no way to escape the dangerous heat. He told our media partner KGTV the hot weather is creating another problem outside.
The other big concern is all that rain created so much vegetation in the back there where the Choice Creek and the alley runs back there, which is city property. And now it's all dried out and it's a fire hazard.
And Montoya is part of a lawsuit seeking $100 million from the city. Residents accuse the city of failing to maintain the storm drains. Montoya says repairs for his home will cost around $500,000 and his insurance only covers $80,000 of it. So he is relying on that lawsuit. 2 Navy aircraft carriers will be in San Diego over the next couple of weeks as part of a planned home port rotation. Here's KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer.
The aircraft carriers George Washington and Ronald Reagan are in town this week completing a hull swap operation. The ships are switching places. The Washington is heading to Japan to replace the Reagan, and the Reagan will be heading up to Washington State to complete maintenance.
In 2008, the Washington became the first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier to be stationed in Japan. In 2015, the Reagan and Washington completed a similar swap at North Island, and the Reagan headed to Japan. After years completing its midlife refueling in Virginia, the Washington is heading back across the Pacific. Rear Admiral Gregory Newkirk is the commander of the Japan-based Carrier Strike Group 5. He says the swap isn't as simple as it may sound.
We swap people, we swap equipment, and all the things that make these amazing combat systems work for months at a time at sea. And that's what you see going on behind us.
A few hundred sailors will be transferring from the Reagan to the Washington to return to their duty stations in Japan. Navy officials say that while here, sailors from both crews will have plenty of opportunities to enjoy San Diego. Captain Daryl Cardone, the captain of the Reagan, says he's looking forward to reconnecting with some of their supporters in Simi Valley.
We're going to reconnect with the Reagan Foundation and the Reagan Library, and it is always nice to spend some time here in sunny Coronado and sunny San Diego.
Both ships will be in San Diego for a few weeks, but don't worry, the thousands of sailors that came along didn't bring their cars, so traffic on the bridge should be just fine. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
The city of San Marcos is taking action on a homeless encampment ban. That's following the Supreme Court ruling last month allowing cities to ban homeless encampments on public property. The city council approved its own ban yesterday with a 4-1 vote. Council member Maria Nunez was the only no vote.
I don't think we have the resources to face this right now as we speak. And so I do want us to continue to pursue options so that every time our deputies or one of us encounter somebody that is unhoused, somebody that needs resources, that we actually do have an ability to provide him with those resources and those options.
San Marcos does not have a homeless shelter, but Mayor Rebecca Jones says the city has paid $120,000 each year for regional supportive services. The ban goes into effect in 30 days. Sheriff's deputies will first issue warnings to people in encampments, and if they don't move or seek services, deputies can then issue a misdemeanor citation. Some airlines are still reeling from Friday's CrowdStrike outage. If you find yourself stranded at an airport, it is important to know what questions to ask your carrier. Jen Sullivan breaks down what passengers need to know about their rights.
For days, passengers across the country have been dealing with lines snaking through airports as airlines try and bounce back from Friday's CrowdStrike outage, which crippled air travel.
This is the worst experience I've ever had in my 35 years of business travel.
Delta is still struggling amid the IT meltdown. This is what baggage claim looks like at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport.
I've never seen such a chaotic scenario with bags everywhere.
Now the Department of Transportation is launching an investigation into Delta.
Why aren't there more people ready to help these customers navigate those disruptions, get them the hotel, the voucher, the rebooking, whatever they need?
So if you find yourself in a mess like this, what do you need to know?
Most airlines have a policy, I think all except for a couple of the budget carriers have a policy where after 3 hours of delay, they will give you meal vouchers.
Travel expert Dave Grossman recommends these tips for passengers. Ask the airline if they'll rebook you on another airline. Ask for hotel vouchers. While you're standing in line for an agent, also be on the phone with the airline. The phone might be faster. And know your credit card perks.
You might have a credit card that has travel or trip delay coverage, and you might not even realize it.
The federal government recently passed a passenger bill of rights, which allows passengers to get a full refund if their domestic flight is delayed by more than 3 hours or 6 hours internationally. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
It wasn't just the first day of school for hundreds of South Bay students, but the first time ever classes were held at Sotomayor Elementary School in Chula Vista. Teachers and staff cheered students on as they walked through the doors. Students and parents told our media partner KGTV what it felt like to be part of the school's history.
Excited to meet new friends and classmates. I'm excited about my classmates are coming to my new school. I really like the recess.
Recess, of course. Most important, for sure.
The new state-of-the-art campus has an amphitheater, a library with open-concept seating, innovative technology, and much more. Tonight, Comic-Con kicks off a 4-day celebration of pop culture. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando talks to a pair of San Diego comic creators who have been attending the convention for decades, but their love for comics and exciting new projects.
At age 5, Chris Ryle knew he loved comics, and one in particular.
I was drawn to this old Fantastic Four comic, issue 130, because it had the Fantastic Four and the Frightful Four. So there's like 8 colorful characters on the cover, all fighting, and completely and utterly captivated by that.
So captivated that he stole it from his neighbor.
So I was either heading toward a career in comics or a life of crime.
He took the path towards comics and now revels in creating books that tap into the things he loved as a kid.
With Abrams Comic Arts, I did this book on these old Marvel calendars, and they were so unique. Every square of each month was designed. Those things have largely never been collected, never represented. And then with Simon & Schuster, they're bringing back the Fireside line of books. The first one was Origins of Marvel Comics. The real distinction of that book is it was the first Marvel book and one of the very first graphic novels to ever get into bookstores and libraries. It's hard to fathom now, but if you were a kid in the mid-70s and you went to a bookstore, there was no comic material at all. So this is artist Alex Ross's recreation for the deluxe edition. And you see, like in the original, it just had Stan Lee's hands at the typewriter. I thought Alex's sort of subtle but direct way of acknowledging, Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko by bringing their hands into the same thing, showing that, no, there was no one person involved, but there was a team involved.
Scott Dunbier also fell in love with comics as a kid and with its potential.
In a comic book, the sky's the limit. You can do anything you want, and it's almost a magical art form.
Comics can imagine the most fantastical things, create vivid characters, or even be used for social good. Dunbier's Comics for Ukraine has raised money to help refugees.
That was a book that I felt I had to do.
One of its stories is up for a Comic-Con Eisner Award this Friday. Ryle also loves the possibilities the medium presents.
I love the way art and words all work together in tandem to create a story, sort of the excitement you feel almost every single page being like its own little mini story where you get to the bottom of that page and hopefully it's compelling enough that you want to turn the page. And so every page of a comic can be that way if it's done effectively.
Doonbeer collects pages of original comic art, which led him to create gorgeous artist edition books while he worked at IDW, a San Diego-based publisher.
I love comic storytelling, but I always edged more towards the art. I can't read a comic with bad art.
At his Comic-Con panel, Doonbeer will be announcing the start of his new company.
Act 4 Publishing, because Act 1 was art dealing, the second act was Wildstorm, third act IDW, and now this is the fourth act.
A new company, but he'll still be following his passion for original art with more artist edition books, which he'll be discussing at his panel.
We haven't announced it yet, but we're going to be giving away artist edition bookmarks. Dave Stevens' The Rocketeer, Joe Kubert's Tarzan, an EC science fiction page, and Will Eisner's The Spirit. And since they're bookmarks for artist editions, of course, they're gigantic. These are actually 4 by 16 inches.
Ryle will be on multiple panels to discuss a variety of projects, but he's also working on a graphic novel film adaptation.
It started with a complete out-of-the-blue email from Francis Coppola saying, hey, I want to make a graphic novel based around Megalopolis, and I'm told you're the one who can help me with that. Is that true? And first you're like, I don't know if this is real, but your response, like my response always to these things is, yes, Francis Coppola, I am the right one who can do that.
And he was delighted to discover Coppola is a comics fan.
He cited a character called the Heap, which is like a precursor to Swamp Thing and Man Thing. And like nobody mentions the Heap unless they're legit, unless they know comics. And so it's fun when you can find that common ground, you know, that common comic book language to talk about, even with people that have never otherwise dabbled in the space before. So it's been a blast. Like it's been just the most like exhilarating, creatively inventive thing. Yeah, I've loved every bit of it.
Who'd have thought stealing a comic book at 5 could lead to all this? Now, we can wait in eager anticipation to see what the next page turn will reveal in their careers. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
A San Diego company is bringing science fiction to life with their bionic hand prosthetic. KPBS producer Brendan Tuccinardi says they'll be at San Diego Comic-Con tomorrow showing it off.
So many of our favorite characters and superheroes have bionic limbs. From Marvel's Winter Soldier to Luke Skywalker in Star Wars to Imperator Furiosa in Mad Max. But what if I told you that bionic limbs exist outside of science fiction and comics? Say hello to the Ability Hand. It's the creation of San Diego-based company Bionic.
So I've got the Ability Hand right over here, and the most common way to control it is with your muscles.
The Ability Hand is made of silicone and carbon fiber, making it super durable and lightweight.
And it can even switch between different grips. So if I open the hand twice, I can do a pinch, for example. If I'm at a rock concert, you know, you can rock on. And then our user favorite is the finger wave, where you can see all the fingers moving.
With practice, users can lift a barbell, swing a golf club, and even hold an ice cream cone. Bionic CEO and founder Adil Akhtar started thinking about prosthetics when he was 7 years old.
My parents are from Pakistan. I was born in Chicagoland, and I was visiting Pakistan when I was 7. It's the first time I met someone with a limb difference. She was my age, missing her right leg and using a tree branch as a crutch. It's what inspired me to go into this field, and it's inspired me to create a company called Bionic that develops advanced bionic limbs that are affordable for both humans and robots.
Akhtar and a few Ability Hand users are bringing their stories to San Diego Comic-Con this year. They'll be participating in a panel discussion on what it's like living with a bionic hand.
A lot of people don't know how they actually work in real life and how functional they are for people with limb differences. And so we kind of wanted to show the world, like, hey, this is how cool bionic limbs are in real life. They're real, and this is what our users can do with it. These are their challenges, these are their limitations, but these are also some of the amazing things that they can do.
The panel is at 7:30 p.m. on Thursday in room 24 ABC. And with the help of the Ability Hand, I'm counting down the days till then. Brendan Tuccinardi, KPBS News.
And we are covering all things Comic-Con over the next few days. An evening edition will be live downtown in the middle of it all. That is on Friday. You can find our convention coverage at kpbs.org. Just click on the Comic-Con banner that you'll find on our homepage. With the weather getting hotter and the water getting warmer, more people are heading to the beach to cool off. So do the stingrays. Dozens of people have been stung at San Diego County beaches already this year. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen shows us how to avoid this hidden danger.
Summer is in full swing. In San Diego, that means going to the beach. From learning to surf, building sandcastle, or just a quick pickup football game with dad. But there's danger lurking beneath the waves.
They're not thinking of when they go into the water are the stingrays.
Lieutenant Andrew Francis is a lifeguard for the city of Carlsbad. He says the bottom-dwelling fish love the warm, shallow waters this time of year.
Which is why when people are going into the water, they'll have a higher frequency of finding one because they come into the lower shallows where the water will warm from the sun.
It's a danger that Nicole Dobash from Phoenix, Arizona knows full well. She's been visiting San Diego for more than 30 years.
I have had relatives and stuff that have been stung by the stingrays, so I know they're out there, so we're very cautious.
A stingray sting is painful, but generally not life-threatening. It might not be too painful at first, but
that pain's just going to start building and throbbing and burning. That's because they've put their venom inside you, and it's starting to get into your bloodstream and attach to your pain receptors and really start setting you off.
Lifeguard says the best way not to get stung is to do the stingray shuffle.
That's a real thing, is just taking small sliding steps will kind of cause the vibrations, and they'll sense that you're coming, and then they'll generally scurry away from you.
I'm sure there are Phoenicians out there or people that come from Arizona that don't know about it.
If you do get stung, seek treatment at a lifeguard tower or soak your feet in hot water. It can take up to 1 hour for the pain to subside. Lifeguards say you should also get checked at the ER because the stingray's barbs can get stuck inside the wound. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Temperatures later on tonight will be slipping down into the mid-60s. That's a big drop in Ramona after a very hot afternoon. That's the dry air in place, very efficient in cooling off and heating up. Meanwhile, we'll stay put in the 80s around Borrego Springs and drop into the mid-60s late night around Oceanside and toward Chula Vista, where there will be some clouds along the immediate coast, even to a certain degree over some of the far interior western valleys. Here's a look at future radar and satellite as we go through time. Most of the moisture stays out to the east, though we cannot rule out at least a stray shower or downpour as we venture our way toward the latter half of Thursday. If your travels take you into Arizona or perhaps northbound into Nevada, we'll definitely check ahead there, as there'll likely be some delays. Meanwhile, heat alerts continue here through Thursday evening and Thursday night. Heat advisories, again, stretching throughout the interior valleys, and for the deserts, it is an excessive heat warning. High temperature up to 100 degrees in Ramona. So if anything, we could even be a degree or two higher tomorrow for some spots. 114 in Borrego Springs. Meanwhile, some coastal comfort going on from Oceanside to Chula Vista. The immediate shoreline will stay put here into the mid-80s, though still running a little bit above the historical average. We will see those numbers coming back down. More clouds, perhaps a little less sunshine heading in toward the weekend. High temperatures falling back into the mid-70s. In the meantime, here throughout the interior valleys, the next couple of days will be the hottest, and then here too, we'll start to see our numbers dropping down a bit as we go into Saturday, Sunday, and also into Monday. Perhaps even some clouds making their way a little more persistently into the interior valleys. Mountainous locations, perhaps a spotty shower or thunderstorm here in the short term. Otherwise, dry and cooler as we head in toward the weekend. Numbers lowering a bit throughout the deserts as well. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
2 Lincoln High Sumo wrestlers qualified for the Junior World Championship in Poland. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson says they just need money to go.
You go open up your hands so you have no weapons.
In Lincoln High's wrestling gym, Coach Christina Griffin-Jones leads warm-up.
Each. Oh, girl, I'm giving myself knee.
She grew up nearby and started the Sumo Club this year.
And to be able to bring a gift like this to our community is everything, because I know for sure I would have been a champ if something like this was happening at my high school.
She says competitive sports are not just about skill, but access to resources. She's the first African-American woman to medal in international sumo.
And that's wild. That's wild. And I'm really happy that I won't be the last.
She thinks these young wrestlers are paving the way for more diversity in sumo. They could attend the national championship because Lincoln High hosted it. Freshman Maylee Lowe won her division.
I thought it was a joke at first because they were like, oh, you're going to go to Poland. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, go talk to JJ. And I was like, oh, okay.
Maylee Lowe's older brother has been training her in wrestling.
One push. It means a lot because my brother not being able to go far in sports because of money and financial issues. When he was in high school, it's like an honor to have the opportunity for me to go.
The team needs to raise $10,000 to go. The deadline's in August. Still, Griffin Jones is optimistic, and not just for this year.
I feel like this isn't the last time we're going to see Lincoln Hornets, right, competing on the world stage in sumo.
Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition is talking to two political scientists about how important vice presidential picks are to a campaign. And KPBS Midday Edition has a show all about San Diego Comic-Con, including discussions with local creators and a preview of what to expect at this year's event. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.